And the present is a gift, which is why they call it present. Hello beautiful people, my name is Monica and thank you so much for being here with me today. Today's video is going to be on how to become more present to the moment in your life. So what does being present mean, and why would you want to be more present? Why is it important for, good mental health or overall happiness? I wanted to make a video on this topic today because lately, I want to say for the past few weeks, I keep getting this message, it seems like from the universe or my angels, spirit guides, what have you, about the need for me to become more present in my life. And I didn't quite understand what that meant because I'm like, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm listening, I'm seeing, I'm doing these things. Like, aren't I being present? I don't know what this means. And what I mean by signs, or the message I keep getting, is like on TV shows, on Instagram posts, on movies, on the radio, articles I've been reading. I just keep seeing messages about people talking about being more present. So I've really been thinking about this a lot lately. What I've discovered so far is that being more present to the moment has helped reduce my anxiety, my overanalyzing or overthinking, feeling overwhelmed. It's also improved my focus, my concentration, and just helps me to be more mindful about my thoughts and what's happening. So I heard this quote once that said something along the lines of, if you're depressed, then you're stuck in the past. If you're anxious, you're stuck in the future. And there have definitely been times where I have been both. But like they say, there is no time like the present. I also feel with the increase in technology, it's easier than ever to be distracted and to not be present in the moment because we're so busy checking our phones for our social media, or we're checking our text, or we're checking news articles or whatever's going on. So I see a lot of times people will be walking or they'll be walking their dogs and they're glued to their phone, or just out and about and they're constantly glued to their phone. It's very rare that you see someone who's not on their phone. I sometimes see people who are outside and they're just reading a book, or they're just sitting on a bench eating their lunch and they're just being present and looking out at what's going on, in front of them. And I admire that so much, and that always reminds me to keep being focused on being present. So now I'm going to share with you 5 tips that I think have really helped me to become more present, and hopefully one of these will work for you as well. So let's get into it. The first tip I have is to jump or run into cold water. I had watched a few Tony Robbins videos a while ago, and I know he said part of his routine, at least in the video I watched, he jumps into a cold plunge that he has in his backyard.
Yeah, I do 10 minutes this time. 57 degrees, baby. Whoa.
And he says there's not one day that he ever actually wants to do it, that he could easily talk himself out of it because it's never pleasant, no matter how often he does it. But I believe he said something like, when you're in cold water, it makes your, it circulates your blood faster in your body, and it brings the blood up to your heart, and that helps to get you out of your head. So as an empath and as a highly sensitive person, I get stuck in my head a lot. And I didn't even realize how much I was stuck in my head because it was so normal for me because I do it so often, until I really started thinking about becoming more present and how can I do that. So pretty much like any time of day, I will be in my head thinking, I'm always like in the future. So I might be cleaning one thing, but I'm like, oh, I need to go sweep over here. I need to go vacuum over here. And then I won't really finish a task all at once because I'm just constantly jumping from one thing to the next thing. And I think a really big part of that is with most of the jobs today in society, you have to multitask. I've been to a lot of job interviews in the past where they ask me, would you like to focus on one thing, a single task, or would you prefer to multitask? And the answer they're usually looking for is they want somebody who can multitask. So like in my last job, I was constantly getting phone calls, voicemails, constantly getting emails that I was responding to, and then I would have random things come up from my boss that had to be done, and random things that came up from other people, and it felt like I had like 10 things to do at once, and all of them were high priority, and I didn't know which one to do first. So that carried on into my home life, my personal life, to where it felt like I couldn't focus on just doing one thing, and I was constantly feeling anxious about everything. Ways that you can jump into cold water could be like if you have a pool at your house or an apartment complex. If you live near a lake, river, stream, or a beach, then you can run into the water there or jump in. And then you don't have any access to water, you can start by practicing cold showers by, at the end of your hot shower, do 30 seconds, and I've been doing this one. Just do 30 seconds of cold water all over your body. It's very uncomfortable, it's not pleasant, but it also has a lot of health benefits, taking cold showers, that I'm not going to go into in this video, but becoming more present is definitely a big one. And then, of course, you can always just splash cold water on your face. I know a lot of people do that. And there are times when I'm drinking out of my water bottle, and there's some times where I just completely miss my mouth and I get cold water all over like my chest, and I start to freak out and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? But now I'm like grateful for it, because I'm like, oh, that really brought me more into the present moment. It's not a bad thing. So the second technique I have for becoming more into the present moment is to unplug from technology and social media. This one is probably the hardest one for me, and probably going to be the hardest one for most people. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm just like everyone else. I'm just like most people when it comes to my phone. It's basically like an extension in my hand, and I've had to become more mindful of that. Constantly checking it, constantly on it for everything. Usually a lot of our jobs, if we have office jobs, we're in front of the computer screen all day. We come home and then we're on our phones all the time, and we're constantly, emailing, texting, checking all of the social media platforms that are out there. And one of the biggest one is we're constantly watching TV. I personally cannot concentrate if the TV is constantly on, and if I'm trying to block it out and I'm not really listening to it, it still affects me and it makes me feel more anxious. So I am trying to reduce my TV time. Last night I took an hour or so, and I just sat out on the balcony and I watched the sunset, and I didn't have my phone, I wasn't eating, I wasn't doing anything except for paying attention to the clouds, the sky, and the sun, and it was very nice. So I am making sure to be mindful and take more time for myself to do things like that, where I'm just present to whatever's happening and I don't have any distractions and I don't have any overstimulation of, TV, my phone, anything like that. No technology, just as if I was camping and I had no access to the internet, which is a good thing sometimes. So the third technique I have is called grounding or earthing. I mentioned this in my self-care video that I like to ground for 20 minutes a day. I will still make a video in the future about different ways that you can ground yourself. There's very many out there. But my personal favorite, and the one that I've been doing pretty much every day, is just literally sitting my butt on the ground, usually in a grassy area at a park, since I live in an apartment and I don't have a yard at the moment. So today I went to my favorite park. My routine lately has been to run at this park, and then when I'm done running, I take 20 minutes to sit on the ground and ground myself. So I tend to do one of several things depending on my mood while I'm grounding at the park. One of them might be that I will set my timer on my phone for 20 minutes, and I will close my eyes and I'll meditate for the entire time by just observing my thoughts, trying not to judge them, just letting them flow freely and observing them. Another thing I might do is also meditate, but with my eyes open, and just concentrate on looking at the water as it's flowing, or just concentrate on a fixed point. Or sometimes as part of my grounding practice, I will imagine that there is a long cord that is going from my spine all the way down to the center of the earth, and that it literally has a plug outlet, and the plug from my spine goes into the core of the earth, and then the energy from the core surges all the way back up through that cord and through my spine and into my entire body. And then after that, I imagine that there's a cord going from the very top of my head all the way up to the sun. Also has a plug and an outlet for the sun, and then it plugs in, and then that energy surges back down and comes back to me from above and below. And the last thing I sometimes do is I will try to use as many of my senses as possible. Usually I don't use the taste sense because I may not have eaten something recently, but I try to use the other 4 senses while I'm sitting there, and I will look at what I see, and I'll think about what I'm seeing, and I will listen to see what I'm hearing, which is usually the sound of the stream or the sound of people around me, or sometimes even traffic in the background. I will observe what I'm smelling. Usually it might be like fresh cut grass, or it might just be the smell of fresh air, which has kind of a distinct smell to me. And lastly, I will just check in with how I'm feeling, sometimes on a physical level, like do I feel pain anywhere? Do I feel cold? Do I feel hot? What sensations are going on? Or just how I'm feeling internally, emotionally. Am I feeling good? Am I feeling bad, positive, negative? And just kind of observe how I'm feeling as well. So that brings me to the 4th technique I have for bringing yourself into the present moment, and that is to bring awareness to your entire body. I found this concept kind of funny for some reason, because if you think about it, I mean, we're pretty much always in our body. Like, you would think we know how we feel at all times, but a lot of times we're so caught up in everyday drama or things that are going on in our life that we don't really stop to check in to see how we're feeling. Like, we may be allergic to a certain type of food, but we may, like gluten for instance, but we may eat it so often and feel terrible and not realize that that's not, that we don't have to feel terrible, because that just becomes kind of our normal state that we're just used to and we don't question it. The way that I like to bring awareness to my body, and this is a very easy, simple thing you can do anywhere, whether you're at work, at your desk, if you're in a meeting, if you're sitting on a bus or a plane, anything like that. It's very easy. You just start with your toes, and I usually start with like my left leg, and I'll think about I'll bring awareness to my toes, because if you really think about it, you don't actually have awareness in every part of your body all at once, all the time. You have to kind of bring awareness by thinking about that body part before you realize what's going on with it. So like, for instance, you're probably not aware of your right pinky toe until I mention it, and then you start to think about it. And bringing awareness is almost like to the point where you're about to move that body part, but you're not quite moving it, but you can really feel the energy and the sensations of feeling going into that part. So I'll start with like my toes, like I said, and I'll think about how they feel. I tend to run cold with my feet, so I usually kind of feel like a cold sensation. And then I go up my foot to my ankle, to my shin and calf, thigh, all the way up my spine, my stomach, my head, my arms, everything. And I do that very slowly, and I just bring the sensation and the awareness to each body part and observe how I'm feeling physically on an energetic level. So like I said, that one's super easy. You can do it anytime, anywhere. People won't even realize you're doing it. And that will help to bring you back into the present moment, because again, when we're not being present, we're more in our head thinking, and we're not really concentrating or focusing or observing what's going on around us. So being present helps to bring awareness back into your entire body so that you are in tune with what's going on around you. My 5th technique for becoming more present to the moment is to meditate or do a walking meditation. I bring up meditating in pretty much most of my videos because it really is one of those things that you can just use for a lot of things. It's just very valuable in life. So I highly suggest just meditating daily. Even if you only have 5 minutes, it's very beneficial, especially when you first wake up. So before even grabbing for your phone or grabbing coffee, just take 5 minutes, close your eyes, meditate, focus on gratitude, or just observe your thoughts, whatever you want to do. Also, doing it before bed, especially if you're focusing on something positive, can be very helpful. And then I also like to do what I call walking meditation, where I don't bring my phone, I'm not listening to music, and I might just take a walk around the park or my neighborhood, and I go into it as if I have never been in this area before, and I'm kind of observing it with a curiosity like a child. You know, when you're a child, you were curious about everything. You were touching everything, smelling everything. You were asking questions about everything. Everything was just brand new, and you were just kind of absorbing it all. So I will go for a walk, and sometimes even a bike ride, and I will just look around, and I will just observe all the plants, the flowers, rocks, trees, houses, buildings, people, and try not to really label them or judge them, but just observing as if I'm looking at it for the first time. And a lot of times when I do this, I end up seeing things along my path that I didn't notice before, because I was thinking so much. Even if I have driven, ridden, or walked down this certain path many times before. So walking meditations are awesome. Again, I don't feel like you have to try to clear your mind, but just really try to bring yourself so focused and present on what you're seeing or smelling. And again, you can use your senses, and that will help to bring you more present in the moment right then at that time. And last but not least is my 6th technique on how to become more present to the moment, and that is to practice focusing on doing one task at a time. This for me is easier said than done, as I've previously explained in this video, but I just wanted to reiterate. Let me give some examples. I've had times where I was watching TV and on my phone or on my laptop. I am practicing just focusing on one thing. So if I'm watching TV, I'm watching a movie or something, I'm just going to watch that movie. I'm not going to bring out my computer to research something. I'm not going to check my phone for anything. I'm just going to be present to the moment and focus on watching that. If I'm on my phone and I'm responding to people, I'm just going to focus on that and trying not to do like 10 other things at once. I mean, we've even gotten to the point where I feel like we're so addicted to our phones that even when we brush our teeth at night, we're scrolling through social media, and we're not just focused on brushing our teeth. And just little tasks like that, if you just focus on doing that and that one thing, that will bring you more present to the moment. And I promise you, if you keep practicing any of these techniques, whether it's one or all of them, you will notice a big difference in your life. It's amazing how much we can miss out on because we're not putting our full focus, attention, energy on what we're doing, on what we're trying to manifest, on spending time with our family and our friends, on doing a project at work and doing it not half-assed, but like actually doing it to the best of our ability. Multitasking has its place and it can be beneficial, but I believe that the more that we can focus on just doing, observing, being in the present moment, the happier we're going to be, and the easier it's going to be to focus and to concentrate on whatever task we have at hand. So that is all I have for you today. I really hope that you try at least one of these techniques if you're not already doing them, and I really hope that this helps you in some way and that you do start to notice a difference. I know I have in my life, and it's something that I have to be very conscious and aware of because it's easy to go back into the autopilot mind and just do everything the way I've been doing it and not have to think about it or focus on it. But it's always good to challenge yourself. It's good to get out of your comfort zone, and that is how you're going to continue to grow. Thank you again so much for being here with me today. I hope you're having a wonderful day or night, and until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye.